Hello, Uta here with rock cress. This is a sweet little cress that is native and it grows in the rocks, sometimes right through the moss. And this one I'm going to transplant someplace where I hope I can increase it. It is, of course, useful for the insects in the early spring. Now, this video is about how these trolls who come on here and come saying, ha ha ha, you don't even know. We go in your spaces and we pass, and we're doing it already. You can't get us out, and you can't stop us, and so on. And I have to tell you that this is a fallacy and a delusion. There are a number of things that are factors for this. Number one, you guys tend to go to a place where you're not going to get challenged. And that fits in with Nettie's so-called true life test, where he went to see if he passed in gay bars, where there's other cultural phenomena going on involving cross-dressing, which is just done sometimes by regular gay guys. They're not saying that they feel like a woman. They just have their own reasons that I don't really relate to for doing this. I do think it has to do with attracting the gay male gaze, perhaps. Uh, Commenters who know about this can tell me. But the one thing I will tell about commenters here who are trolls and who say that you don't even know how much we've been going into your spaces. Some of us are friends of yours, and you don't even know that we were born male, and so on and so on. And that is just not true. It isn't true. And the fact that the culture of the far left and sort of, if you will, woke culture is telling people that if you misgender someone, you might get fined or you might go to jail or you might get canceled or this kind of thing. What it really means for you guys who try to present as female is that people don't challenge you because they're afraid of you. And the fact is, your hip to your shoulder to hip ratio is a male ratio. Bigger shoulder, narrower hips. It's the opposite for us women. And a lot of us struggle with how we feel about that and the pressure that we have to be thin and fashionable like actresses and models. So this is true of Game Show Dylan. This is true of a lot of them. Quite a few of them are carrying a little bit too many pounds, so then that obscures it. But of course, there's the Adam's apple, and a tracheal shave is very dangerous. And it's really too bad if you're going to spend money getting a tracheal shave to pass better as a woman, because inside your throat are your vocal cords. And when you try to talk higher unnaturally, you strain your vocal cords. Also, if you take estrogen and you have a male body, then it is bad for your vocal cords and also all your joints and your skeleton, and it can cause liver failure, kidney failure, higher rate of cardiac issues and strokes. Women kind of know this from the birth control pills. So we've had to deal with various female hormones as a method for birth control because, of course, I don't know what they do now. I don't know what the mechanisms now are, but what it was before was that birth control pills mimicked pregnancy. for the woman who was taking them, and so then the woman wouldn't ovulate. The chemicals would trick her body into not ovulating. We know a little bit about, there are some dangers, for women taking estrogen, right? And of course, calling it HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is just a misnomer. I never took that. I didn't have such a hard menopause. I was kind of late with menopause. It was probably because I was so skinny when I was a teenager from dancing, not from any kind of starving myself, but I did not get regular periods until I was about 17. I had my first period at 14. Now, the other thing that is a mechanism that I would really like to talk about is that when a girl starts getting her menses, she becomes aware of this internal organ, her uterus, that she's basically been unaware of unless she talked to some female relative who was, pregnant and talking in biological terms about, where is that baby inside of her. Now, what happens is there are sensations from having your period and the coming away from the uterine wall of the menstrual flow is a little bit of a foreshadowing to what you will feel when you start to go into labor. And so, therefore, you have this awareness as a woman of time. 4 weeks is 28 days. You are looking for that period. Or not looking for that period if you want to be pregnant. And then I remember when I first went into labor, I had some sensations that reminded me of getting my menstrual period, which of course I hadn't had in over 9 months. So those are the very, very female, intrinsically feminine experiences. And I sort of want to give femininity a new definition, because femininity is being that strong woman during labor, not asking for the epidural or any of those other things, but just breathing your way through it because you've studied what happens during childbirth. And you know that it is very challenging, very difficult, but what you get at the end, most of the time, please God, is a healthy baby. So those sensations are not something that any man can ever relate to directly. Men can see it. They can see their wife or someone, some woman giving birth. They can hear friends who are female talking about menstrual problems, this kind of thing, but they cannot have this direct knowledge of what it is to be female. Likewise, definitely the cranial structure is typically bigger. The brows are more dominant. And you can tell when these men who have decided that they are women are putting on all this deep, deep eyeshadow. And it makes their eyes look like they are way deep in the sockets. And that is just not a typical feminine look. The rare woman might have the bigger brows and have a deeper place. Not like me. I have droopy eyelids in my ancient stage that I'm in now. But there's a different look to the eyes. Also, there's often kind of a deadness in the back of the eyes because of the preoccupation that these cross-dressing men are having about their appearance. Their feet and hands are typically much too big. There are women who have large feet and large hands, but still the proportions are not like the male proportions. Now, I saw a cross-dressing young male hair down to his shoulders. He was wearing a t-shirt tucked in, kind of pulled his pants up kind of high. So you could see very well that his shoulders were big and his hips were slim. But he was doing this other thing that I remember from Nettie, my ex-husband, of just kind of making sure that his shoulders seemed to be loose and switching, shimmying a little bit here and there, all the way through the torso, and swinging his arms in a gentle way that he is imagining is female, while he's looking around to see who's noticing and making sure that people are affirming him and giving him a smile and howdy, ma'am, and stuff like that. But those are all contrived reactions. You're not passing. It is the way it is. That's that's just silly to come on my channel, and what you're going to get is blocked. Hide from this channel in response to this claim, which I always think is from a 14 to 16-year-old boy who's really in trouble with his emotional place. And if he's finding himself attracted to guys, you know, he should not automatically assume that he's trans. The whole bandwagon of fanfare and love bombing and everything is just so unhealthy, because then you have a conflict of interest. You want that attention. And how in the world are you going to have a really productive adulthood if you aren't, instead of this stuff, if you aren't going home and doing your algebra homework and figuring out how to write a better sentence and looking up history of the world, this new history of the world where eunuchs are anything but unfortunate people who were basically enslaved during the time of the Silk Road or the Roman Empire. That is all a fallacy. Now, De Vries and Steensma, the Dutch researchers who are now trying to do follow-up 10 years later, after their very sketchy research involving only 53 subjects, on which the Dutch protocol that is foolishly followed here in the U.S. That follow-up now, that those researchers accepted 800,000 euros to do, has now found that they lost 50% to follow-up. They haven't announced what is N equals in this study. Is it only 20 people? Because you shouldn't extrapolate and say 21% this and 56% that. 21% of the ones that they located said that they believe they were not told thoroughly what the hormone treatments, what the puberty blockers, and what the surgeries really would mean in terms of long-term ramifications. I don't really trust any of the rest of the results from those people, and I only want to say that the Dutch studies are based on a mindset that Holland has had, the Netherlands' governmental mindset about their progressivism, their being on the forefront of all social movements in Europe, is based on the fact that they legalized prostitution and hard drugs in the 1970s. Interestingly, Amsterdam's leaders are now asking British sex tourists not to come and visit the Amsterdam red light district because they're too rowdy and they don't want to have to pay for more police. So there's a lot going on here. But those men who think that their voice doesn't give them away, that their attitude doesn't give them away, if they think that we don't notice their big feet and big hands and receding hairline and a brow structure, you just can't change it all. You are XY, you are skeletally male. You should learn to accept through movement and through good therapeutic work of the traumas and grief from your childhood to learn to accept your body so that you can live long. Yeah. Yes. Now out to transplant the rock cress. And where is my cursor? Subscribe, like, and share.